Sure.
Let's go ahead and get started. You're in media and your message. Y'all have chosen wisely over the other two sessions. We've got two real professionals in here today. Brittany McGuire, who is the director of our public relations department. Robin Barrier, assistant to Brittany. She kind of specializes in graphic design. Everything they touch for HCU, they make us look better. They both love the Lord. They love mission work. They've been all up there involved in missions all over the world. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Brittany and Robin.
All right. Thank you, Pat. And thanks for everyone that's here. It is warm, and so I hope you all don't fall asleep. Like Pat said, I'm the director of PR here at Heritage, and it's an honor. I was really excited when Pat Phillip asked if we could speak on this because so many times, like, we'll be somewhere and we're like, oh no, that PowerPoint, like, wow. You have a great message, but you lose people with all the distractions that can go on in your flyer or even something that you post on Facebook. So it's really important, and especially in this day and age. Also, I'd kind of like to just spotlight Robin for a second. I'm going to embarrass her, but she is incredibly resourceful to me, and she's incredibly resourceful to this university. She oozes with talent, and she makes me look good all the time. But this past year, you probably noticed we've done a lot of changing around. We have worked on branding. It's been a big, busy year. Since Robin joined the team a little over a year ago, we've hit the ground running. I mean, we have tackled the logo, we've tackled the newsletter, everything you can imagine, and we're still finding things that need to be rebranded or cleaned up and made modern and all that. So I say all of that, though, to say all of that takes time, and it's annoying, and you don't want to do it. And sometimes you think, let me just get everything else done, and, like, no one will even notice what it looks like, you know. Oh, no, that is not true. You don't do that with your sermon. You don't do that. I've seen many of you. You will take the time to look so nice, put up in front of a church. So if you're going to take all of that time and effort to look good, then see it all the way through, you know? And you do that, I think, because you believe in what you're doing. We all know what we do in the church is important. And so if you think it's important and you believe in it, then go with it. Go all the way through with it. So this session specifically is going to be about graphics and creating a PowerPoint, communication, how you're communicating with graphics in your PowerPoint and your flyers and your social media. Even lack of communication communicates something. So I guess we'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, Brittany was very generous in the things that she said. She's great to work for, wise beyond her years, and she's provided great guidance for me, a team effort for sure. Well, our goal today is to help you build a graphic that gets attention. We think design is an important part of this, and hopefully before you leave today, you will too. Using the tips we will discuss today will affect your graphic in 3 ways. Promotion. Who will actually notice it? Communication. Will it say what you want? And impression. Will they be convinced? Will they want to come to your event, etc.? Well, first, we start with a blueprint. Building a graphic is like building any structure. You start with a blueprint. You need to sharpen your axe before chopping down the tree. In other words, you need a plan.
So just like at this point, taking the time to think about how you're going to be consistent from the time that you have a blank screen in front of you till all the way when you put it on Facebook or send it out in an email. How are you going to be consistent?
Your plan revolves around 3 things. These 3 things should guide the whole process: audience, message, and outcome.
So kind of like I said in the intro, if you're a minister, then you're already super familiar with this. you will take into account like who you're speaking to, your audience. Is it a younger generation? Is it the senior group at your church? Is it people that do not know Christ at all? So you're familiar with that, being aware of who your audience is. You're also aware of your message. Is it going to be an emotional message? Is it going to be strictly information? Is it going to be something where you're trying to gather fundraising? So what angle are you working? Also, your outcome, what you're hoping to get out of your message. Also, think about here what you don't want to communicate. Sometimes we focus so much on what we want to communicate that we forget about what we don't want to be communicated. So making sure it's not offensive or inappropriate for your audience or whatever.
So just to reiterate what Brittany said, these 3 things should guide all of your design choices. Audience, whose attention are you trying to get, and what gets their attention? Message, what message do you want communicated about your event? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be educational, supportive? Those are all 3 different things. Outcome, what does your graphic need to accomplish? Is it informing, inviting, or engaging in the case of fundraising? So I think Brittany mentioned. Well, now that you have your blueprint, it's time to line up the crew. You need a good crew to get the job done. You need the right tools to build a good product. So what are these tools? There are 3 tools we'll discuss today at your disposal: color scheme, typography, and photography. The first tool in our belt is color scheme. There's more to choosing colors than what meets the eye. Why do you wear blue to court and black to funerals? Because color communicates. Blue says you're trustworthy and believable. Black says you are somber and in mourning. These are not just traditions. There is psychology behind color. And the chart on this screen gives the emotions that are associated with each color. We're not going to go over all of those, but we've included it in a handout for you to take home and use when you design your own materials. But let's have a look at Walmart. Walmart did not choose blue and yellow for their brand because it was trendy or someone's favorite colors. Blue communicates that you're trustworthy and dependable, and yellow is psychologically the happiest color in the spectrum. So this is what Walmart wants you to feel when you see their materials, their sign, their stores, their ads. Just a couple more tips to keep in mind when choosing your colors. Think back about your blueprint. The colors you choose should appeal to your audience, communicate your message, and help get the outcome you desire. Also, keep it simple. Your house would be pretty distracting if you painted it 5 different colors. Your graphic will be distracting as well if you use too many colors. If color's not your strong suit, you can look up color schemes online. We've included a link on our handout that we'll give you at the end for you to help you pick out color schemes.
Yeah, and if it's not, like Robin was saying, if it's not your strong suit colors, maybe your colorblind, I don't know. Microsoft has done the work for you. If that's not your thing, then own it. Use what Microsoft does. They have color schemes that come up, and that not only, if you've noticed that, then you probably noticed that PowerPoint has templates too, and you can use those also. But I think it's at the top of the screen. It may even say design when you go to PowerPoint, and you can utilize what Microsoft has already done and use the templates for colors.
Another tool in your belt is typography. It's more than just words. Words communicate, but how you use them affects how well you communicate. This is where fonts come into play. Fonts all have personality and should also fit your audience and message. So looking again at our photo of Walmart, the font personality they have chosen is communicating something. They've chosen a bold, sans serif font, but slightly modified. It's solid, easy to read, but they've added some friendly, softened edges, as you can see, so as not to seem overly powerful. This communicates that they are dependable, easy, and caring. So once you've chosen an appropriate font, keep in in mind a couple of tips. Sticking to 2 fonts is best, never more than 3. Ideally, pick 2 that are different from each other, that contrast. You can look on Pinterest or the web for suggested combinations. There are websites like TypeWolf that do the work for you. We've also included that on our handout. We've included a link where you can download free fonts. If you download free fonts, make sure to download commercial use friendly. All right, the third tool in your belt is photography. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's powerful communication at first glance. What melts your heart more than babies and puppies? This photo grabs your attention, evokes an emotion, and it's also good quality. The images you choose should also fit your blueprint. They should appeal to your audience and convey the right message. After choosing an image that looks great and grabs attention, keep some more tips in mind. Quality matters. The image should stick to your blueprint, grab the attention of your audience, communicate the message you want, but it must be good quality. If your picture is not clear or interesting, it's not going to get noticed, or worse, it might communicate the wrong thing. Photos of poor quality could communicate that we did not put much effort into our graphic, that our event is not well organized, or maybe unprofessional. So let's look at a couple of examples. This photo of a puppy is a good photo, but it's poor quality. It's pixelated and fuzzy.
And it probably is a thumbnail. So its original size is probably peanutsy. And we've all done this before. We're in a hurry. So we're just going to Google what picture we need and then pull it over to our desktop and stick that thing in our PowerPoint. Well, it shows that you did that. So it's not meant to be used. It's not meant to be blown up on a PowerPoint screen like that. So yeah, again, it goes back to time. You know, you want that picture, well, you're going to have to go on a goose egg hunt for it. Like, it's going to take time. I've run into this problem several times. You learn by error. And so I know when you're making a flyer, for instance, say you want a picture of a certain friend or speaker that's going to be at your event. Well, sometimes we can email, we have the luxury of emailing the church or the actual person and say, I need the original photo. I need a good quality high-res photo of you. And you'll learn, depending on the person, sometimes you can do that and you'll still get a poor quality photo. So it may take you saying, no, it's still not working. I'm sorry, can you please send me a better photo? I've had to do that a lot, and I know it's probably annoying to people, but it shows. It shows in your end results. So.
Resolution is not the only thing to consider. Here's another photo of bad quality. This is a good example of a cell phone picture, which is also tempting and common. It's dark, it's awkward, and it doesn't evoke anything but a little bit creepy. This is actually a company exec, but you wouldn't know it from the picture.
So creeper is the best word we can come up with because he's literally creeping over the picture. So placement. This is not only is the photo dark, but you don't think very highly of this person because you've cut the rest of them off. So placement is a big deal. So
not everyone can be a great photographer, but there are so many websites where you can get free stock photos now that just about everyone has access to beautiful pictures. Well, now it's time to break ground. Keep in mind that a building with lousy framework is scary and no one wants to enter. Now that you have the right tools to work with, great photos, appropriate colors, fonts, it's time to use them. But the next step is not filling the house with furniture. You have to frame the house first. How will you use your space in your graphic? Using a few guidelines will help you make it something your audience will not be afraid to enter, something they will want to read and can understand. You must first design a layout. There are 2 guiding principles to keep in mind when designing your layout. White space and balance are good. Plan for white space. It should take up 1/3, 1/4 of your document because
Yeah, because less is more. Because your eyes need a place to rest, whether you realize it or not. It's too much. It's too much. It's information overload, and you don't even know what information to read because it's all competing. And so, we've all heard that less is more, but it's the same with design. It's the same with a flyer.
So white space is good. It also needs to be balanced. The entire page is full of text and pictures. It's overwhelming, but if it's unorganized, it's harder to read because you don't know what to look at first. So you need to sketch out a grid before plugging the information in. It's easier to plug your information into the framework than to build your framework around the information. Imagine trying to build your house that way. Here are 3 examples of layouts that implement white balance and white space. The dark squares represent headings, photos, information, and the dashed squares are white space. So you have your layout, your framework. It's time to plug in the information. Before doing that, you need to give visual hierarchy to your information. Know in what order you want the information to be noticed, and then decide where it will go. You must use emphasis to get the most important information noticed first. And here are 3 examples of using, the first one is using size for emphasis, the second one is color for emphasis, and the third is grouping of information.
Okay, so you got it done, and you're like, woo, I got my graphic done, and it looks awesome. So I'm just gonna send it out just like this. No, you're not. You can't do that. So you worked all that time, and you spent all that time to make sure you followed along and you've made everything consistent and easy to read. Well, now, first things first, we've got to proofread it. We've all been there. We've all, put something out there and we thought we looked at it and there was something so obviously wrong with it. It's like, how did I not see that? So have another person look at it. So that could be somebody in your office, or you could send it to your spouse or a friend or whatever. But if you don't have that luxury, one really silly thing that I do, if it's words you're worried about, is to read it to yourself very slow and intentional. I call it robot voice. And it helps you kind of catch, all the small words, so grammatical errors. Another thing, test print it, because what's on your computer, the settings for the brightness or whatever on your computer is going to be different than maybe what your printer is going to put out. So you may think it was red, but it came out maroon or whatever. And so test print it, and also we'll kind of tell you about the quality again. Save it as a high res. So also after you're done, you think, okay, it's good. Well, yeah, it wouldn't matter, I guess, at this point if you were just putting it on a bulletin board. But if you're going to send it out to other friends to put on their social media, or say they're going to print it off, well, you want it to look just like how you made it. So save it as a high res. You can do that pretty easily, especially with PowerPoint. I can show you. We talked about fonts and downloading fonts, and that's great on your computer screen. But when you send it to another church, chances are they don't have that font. And so the computer on the other end will distort that font. Sometimes it will even make the font really big and run off the screen. And yeah, so we've probably learned this ourselves the hard way, but it's really easy to do. You just save as in JPEG, and it will say save each slide, or save just the current slide, and you'll say save all slides, and it will create a folder on your desktop with all those slides, and it will be. You won't be able to edit it at that point, because it will be each slide will then be its own solid graphic, but it's the way to go. So
yeah, that that helps with other platforms as well. If you're going to be sending your graphic to someone, their computer may not, if they're going to print out your flyers for you, their computer may not have those fonts.
So now it's platform. Where is this thing going? You're going to want to share this, and depending if it's a flyer or a PowerPoint, and depending on your generation, depends on how best to do that, how best to share it. I think we're all familiar with how social media works. I would say safely that all the statistics point to older generation, social media-wise, tend to go to Facebook. So, and that's a safe bet. Facebook is pretty safe. If you're trying to get a younger generation, then you'll want to put that on Instagram to get that attention. So, graphic or no graphic, just think about how your audience is going to receive it, how they're going to respond best. Sometimes this means, no graphic. Sometimes it means phone. Sometimes it means texting. I know that's especially true with older generation, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just being aware that if you want it to get to a certain audience, then sometimes you have to get on their plane of thinking. So.
Well, just in case you're not convinced yet, I have a little story for you. We're probably all familiar with Airbnb. Airbnb is an online marketplace and hospitality service enabling people to list or rent short-term lodging, including vacation rentals, apartment rentals, homestays, hostel beds, and hotel rooms. 1 year after its founding in 2008, it was ready to close its doors. The team called an emergency meeting before giving up. They crunched numbers and analyzed their business from every side and noticed that all the photos being posted of their properties were low quality, most taken with cell phones. They realized that people could not actually see what properties they were looking to rent. They were not being convinced. So they took a week, rented professional cameras, took bright, beautiful pictures of each property, and within 2 weeks they were out of the red and things were turning around. Today, Airbnb's profits are projected to top $3 billion by 2020. They think it's important.
And before we go to this, we thought it'd be funny to show y'all some really terrible stuff. So, in the top right corner it says, what not to do. Imagine this linking. So, we didn't talk about animations, but that can be distracting. And all the crazy competing text. And how about this?
Simple is always
one. Yeah. And we were talking about this, Roman and I, like how you'll see a lot in, say, Southeast Asia or somewhere, like different countries do this a lot. They just like, whoa, that looks good, let's just put it all on there. And then
they have a lot of tech-savvy people. Just because you know how to use the program doesn't make it look good necessarily. Yeah.
I've got a Sunday school teacher who I've tried not to hurt his feelings, but he does his PowerPoint totally different from mine, and he thinks that it's being creative, but this looks just like one of the Sunday school presentations. And then, but not only that, he'll have the live graphics where the wheels are turning and the rabbit is jumping across it and all that. And I've tried to tell him, so I'm going to make sure I take a package of this to him and say, oh, I sat in on this class and I thought you'd be interested.
And that's the trend right now too, is sleek, clean, less is more. It's just beautiful if you can, communicate clearly that way.
When someone walks away from your graphic, they're going to hang on to things that they saw, and I don't know, I can maybe remember 3 or 4 things from some information I only had a few minutes to look at. If you've got too much distracting information, then they're not going to remember the important stuff.
And sometimes when you're working really hard to get all of this information in, I've done this. You'll notice like, oh my goodness, when you print it, that's where printing it off, even if it's a PowerPoint, you may have left a scripture off there, you may have left the date, you may have left the contact information, so even silly things, just printing really helps. So, yeah, that's it. And we have handouts with the
Questions
color schemes and links and all of that. I know it's really hot in here, so y'all are probably dying. Miserable. Yes.
Is there any webinars that you recommend? Because, you know, everybody has to do this, but
Yeah.
I'm not looking for like, you know, 12-week course on this, but I'm looking for
Yeah.
like some webinars that maybe in 5 hours really give me a lot of information. Do you have?
Well, we were talking about Linda before this started. If you've ever used Linda, it's pretty
Never
great.
heard of it.
So I think it's LYNDA, and there's all kinds of stuff there. So you should definitely check it out. Some of it does cost.
I'm gonna go
Um,
make some copies.
Oh, sure.
More.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're desperate, and it is, there are templates that you can find, you know, whether it is a flyer, like a graphic for an event, or whether it's a PowerPoint. Like, there are.
Go ahead, critique it. Do it.
I will not.
Yeah, so that everybody can learn.
Well, I think-
That's an executive order.
Oh,
Talk bad about my
well,
PowerPoint.
okay. The only thing I noticed is the only thing that I can remember that stands out from this morning is like moving graphics. So like, you know, if you have, I think there was a Bible verse that came up, and there was like a little Bible that came up, and then a little Bible came up on the side. So that, you know, I would say
That'll distract him.
that's
Yeah, it
distracting.
is.
Where the less is more, you know.
She's so mean.
What about when my poems came in one at a time?
That's okay. I would like encourage. You can get to a point where you know it can be almost better to just put one point at a time, like a new fresh slide. That way your text is bigger.
It's on one side each.
Yeah, yeah. Simple, clean. I mean, and honestly, I
I'll go
think.
clean it up. Thank you.
Yeah, I think honestly that the trend now is becoming just simple black and white neutrals, you know. And yeah, that's probably a trend. It'll probably go away. Yes.
So I'm not trying to put work on you, but
Uh-oh.
there is a guy that does this, but would y'all have any interest in if someone wanted to send you a PowerPoint to make some suggestions? Michael Hyatt does it out in Denver area, and he's really good with his stuff, but there's
Sure.
a need for that, because we tend to think it's really good, and
Yeah.
a lot of people tell me before that know what's good and what's not, so.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, we
Not every week, but if you got
First
one
two.
that's in there.
well, taking just one, you could probably get a good idea. And I think maybe like, you know, certain generations, some of this is not so off-putting, but definitely a younger generation is going to catch on really fast. And it speaks, it communicates, that alone communicates.
I'm not colorblind.
They came out.
I don't know how ironic is that.
I'm not colorblind,
Okay.
so.
Which
Melanie's
Melanie.
printer, but yeah. Yep. Those are good questions. Yes.
Can you explain branding and how to do that if you were going to make like logo for your congregation or something like that?
It's still similar. Those three principles in your blueprint. You think about your audience, your message, and your outcome. Of course, you go a little further in what you stand for, what you want communicated. That one symbol or graphic is going to say things. Yes, we could talk a little bit about what we did.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research first. We also took into account the past, which is important, looking forward and looking backwards. Simplifying, we got rid of red. We thought about the color green. What does it represent? It has a lot to do with heritage. Like when you think of the word heritage, ivy, just thinking of that. So that was one thing. So
Yeah, we did pages and pages and pages of sketches. We took concepts that I guess we did surveys to the
constituents,
faculty, staff, people involved with the school on what they think of when they think of heritage, what heritage stands for, and took those concepts, and as an artist, I tried to find images or think of images that communicated those concepts. And then it was, back and forth, and Dennis was involved. What, is this saying what I thought? I still stick to, in all of my designing, these principles. Simple is better. What is it communicating? The colors, the symbols. And then beyond just the logo, we did think a lot about, in branding, everything that you put out should reiterate your message. So as far as a design style, we looked at those concepts again. What type of style will our audience appreciate? We actually have kind of two fronts. There's because it's a donor-based school, there's a fundraising front, which was actually a little bit more work for me. I'm definitely used to designing more for the masses and like convince you to come here. Well, materials that go to donors and people that are supporting this are a little bit different than students, recruiting students.
yeah, it was a challenge for sure. And it continues to be a challenge with our website. It continues to be a challenge. Young people don't want this loud phone number and address, the first top thing, Well, an 80-year-old donor does. They want that quick information, large text, maybe even overload information, lots of information on there. Well, we just hate that, we cannot do that.
Okay.
So it can be a challenge, finding what you need to do.
Okay.
And sometimes, if it's for a church and you're just trying to find something that you can use on your letterhead, if you're talking about your church, looking at other churches can be a good place to start and thinking, why do I like their logo? Does that kind of answer the question?
I don't think they did either.
As far as from transitioning from, I've been out of, I used to work for a advertising agency, and branding, when I worked for them, branding and the term branding was just really coming in play, and so I set it up on it. But now, when you're transitioning from branding from like one design to a new one, do you do a radical change, or more so? I think you should normally just that's what I'm thinking. You do like a slow transition and not something so radical to where it'll upset who's already accustomed to it. So that's So you would agree with that?
Strategy involved, for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, one thing I noticed about the Heritage logo is it still has, I guess, like flames.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because I was looking at this is the old one.
Yes.
It has those flames, but that's within the shield shape, and it keeps that same feel.
Yes, so what happened, our old logo, because that's our seal that's on that notebook,
Okay.
we had disliked our old logo so badly that we had decided to embrace our seal. Like, oh, that looks a little bit better. We'll take that, So we tried to look at that, and we asked people, okay, why are you embracing that? Why are you sticking that on things? Because really, you shouldn't be putting the seal on things. You should be proud of your logo. You should stand behind that, and the seal should be more for formal things, for President Biden's office, for stuff like that. So, we asked people, what is it about the seal that you like? And so that's where that came into play. And yes, it kind of helps with the gradually, increasing. We're still the same heritage. That's why we knew we didn't like red and green. we thought, oh my goodness, it says 90s, you know. So we got rid of one, and so we kept green and thought if we want to incorporate another color down the road, so be it. But right now it's not the time.
Considering your audience to just jump out in left field and blue or some other
Yellow.
totally different color.
Yeah.
The people who, you know, were
Scary.
committed to heritage might think that's
Digital rag.
Yeah. Brandon.
I have another business cards. I know this is getting away from PowerPoints, but I think that's something that churches and ministers use a lot of are their business cards. And what is the trending thing? If like a person were to pick up a business card, seen a lot of busy ones and things like that. What do we need to keep in mind when we're producing those?
Well, of course, that came into play too. We had to overhaul business cards when we were doing our branding. Do you want to talk about how we came up with our business card now, or?
Well, it's always a challenge when you have a lot of information to put on there. I try to keep it as simple as possible in the style that we've chosen.
A lot of white space.
Yeah, I use these principles. I do the layout. There were some cards that we had that have a lot of information, and sometimes you can't get around that, and in that case, I apply the what do you want noticed first? What's the most important information? And try to use color and emphasis and grouping in that case. But simple is always better. The better you get, you can branch out a little and take risks, but simple is always best. There are a lot of templates these days that are not that expensive. Creative Market has all kinds. I think you can buy a flyer or a PowerPoint for like $8. So if you're still not confident, and you can take those and kind of make them your own. You can change it up a bit.
Yeah. So when we were doing business cards, I know because not everyone has the mentality that less is more. So we were getting requests for business cards. I want this, and this on there, and I want my wife's, phone number on there, and I want her email address, and it's just like, whoa, like we've got to. So there's compromise too. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of that, and even taking the time to show them, okay, it could look like this, or it could look like this. Do you really want them to find your phone number easily? So.
There's a company called New.
That will
embed a chip into your business card,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
that those people that want all that information can scan that chip.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sure that costs.
Something I do with my jewelry business is I have a picture of my business card on my phone. And if I run into somebody and I don't have a business card, or they say, oh, I'll lose it, I'll say, let me text it to you. And it's on their phone with all my information.
Pretty good.
You say simple is better, but what about it in like a sermon, like you got a 25-minute sermon? Is it better to have 40 slides or 10 slides or less?
Yeah.
More?
Yeah, I think
Well,
they're
they're going to remember, if that's your goal, is for them to walk away and remember, certain things that you said. How much information can they walk away with? Now, I know if your goal is to inform, and if your audience, typically older audiences at churches, if they're supporting you, giving you money, they want to see what they're giving their money to. I know there's some information you have to include there, but they're still going to walk away with only what they can remember. So it's personally, if your audience will be satisfied with not as much information, I don't preach sermons. I go for what can they remember and what are the main, the most important things.
Biggest mistake the preachers make is too many words on the screen.
Yes. Amen. Yeah, putting the whole Bible verse up there.
Thing is, people are going to remember more so what you say, because they don't always have time to read what you're gonna put up there. And so, what, you know, you just less what you have up there. Most of the time, primarily what I have up is maybe a point and the scripture for those who may have visual problems like myself. And that way they can just read the scripture on the screen, but don't have all that other stuff, because it's really a waste of time.
It is, yeah. Yeah, having a strategy